What's good, YouTube? It's Justice I Used to Be Paying. Today I'm back with another video, and in this video I'm going to be talking about Latto and how she's really started to establish herself. But before I get into that, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It helps me out a ton. One of the more intriguing stories in rap this year is the development of Latto. This year, Latto has shown some growth in herself as not only an artist but as a rapper, and I think that the overall respect level for Latto amongst rap fans has risen. I've always thought that she was a talented rapper, but I never really considered her in the conversations for like one of the better female rappers or even the best female rapper. And now if you were to tell me that she was the best or that was your opinion or she was your favorite or whatever, I would be able to respect that opinion. I still don't believe she is the best, but if you're going to tell me that she's of the top echelon, that she is the #1 female rapper in the game, I think that that's a conversation that can be had now. Latto has always been a very solid rapper to me personally, but I always just had her a tier or maybe a couple of tiers below the top of the rap game in terms of her peers. For me personally, I believe that Doja Cat is the best female rapper, and of course, the #1 competition to Doja Cat, at least in my humble opinion, is Nicki Minaj. I know people are going to be as upset that I don't have Nicki as #1. I just prefer Doja. That's just how I've been over the last couple of years. But when it came to Latto, I always had her a step or two below those guys. Maybe she was around the level of like a Glorilla, maybe a step below Meg. Still very good in my opinion, but just not of the top echelon of rappers. And while 2024 wasn't a big year for her in terms of like blowing up into this worldwide top 5 superstar in rap, she wasn't selling 300K first week or anything like that. I think in terms of how she's developed as an artist, it has been a really big year for her. And I think that at this point, anybody who's really listening to hip hop and really listening to the music can no longer deny her as a good artist and an artist that you have to respect. And what kind of kicked off the year for Latto was her beef with Ice Spice. And that kind of coincides with the whole civil war of female rap that we've been seeing as of recently, which really just started with Nicki versus Cardi, and then it just bleeds into the rest of the industry. If you're on one side, you can't really mess with the other outside of like Sexy Red. I think she's the only one that's been able to like successfully kind of place both sides to a point up until this point. But really, it's kind of like red versus blue. If you pick one, you can no longer mess with the other. And at a certain point in time, Latto was a really big Nicki fan in the beginning of her life, but she had a falling out with Nicki that was very public. So she ended up on the other side of things, and Ice Spice came in as the, hot new girl on the block. She's blowing up, she's everywhere, and she aligned herself with Nicki, so that kind of naturally put them at odds. But I don't really know what specific moment kicked off this beef between these two. I don't really know where it started, but we started to see stuff like them liking tweets back and forth back when your Twitter likes were public. They were liking tweets back and forth, and Ice Spice liked to tweet about people copying her style now, and then Latto liked to tweet like, no, I've been dressing like this because everyone was thinking it was about Latto, and then Latto was like, nah, she liked this tweet of like these old pictures of her, really stupid stuff, but you get the point. They kind of started beefing somewhat on Twitter, and then it kind of developed into a thing where Latto was previewing a song which would end up actually being the song Sunday Service, but while she's previewing the song and it's like in a little like tour bus or whatever, or some sort of vehicle, she gets to the part of her song where she says, I just want a one-on-one, don't know why she's so nervous. And in the background of the video, on a screen behind her, there's a video of Ice Spice's music video, so obviously it felt like she was talking about Ice Spice when she said, I just want a one-on-one, which led Ice Spice to drop the song Thank You the Ish, which for as goofy and as corny as that song is, I do kind of like it. It's just funny, it's silly, it's got a stupid hook, it's not meant to be taken seriously, but it is kind of funny, but it was obviously pointed at Latto as a response to what she saw in that video. And then Latto came back with the song Sunday Service, which pretty much everyone agreed upon as the better song of the two. It had the better disses, the better bars, so that was kind of like a small W for Latto, even though anybody with any sort of sense knew that in terms of rapping at each other, Latto's going to be way better than anything Ice Spice can do because she's just a much better artist and rapper at this point in time. Like, that was pretty clear. So that was a good little song to start the year off. It was a banger. People enjoyed it. It's not like, it dominated the charts or anything like that, or, it was a surprise that Latto dropped a good song. So it's not like this in particular was like, oh my gosh, look how good Latto is. But it was just a nice little way to get the year started, get the ball rolling. Then a couple of months later, she followed that song up with the song Big Mama, which is also a very good song in my opinion, and it kind of shows like both sides of Latto, you know, the like cutesy girly girl, I need my man to take care of me, when are you gonna buy me stuff, and then into like the bangers and hard bars. So I thought that that was a kind of cool dichotomy to have on the song. But that was another song that like was really kind of big within the hip hop community. It didn't really chart super highly or do crazy numbers or anything of the sort, but there's no doubt that it was very impactful within the rap space and had a lot of impact, especially on social media, on TikTok and Twitter, Instagram. Anytime a girl's birthday is coming up, probably from now on to the next couple of years now, they're going to be using the song Big Mama. So again, another little W moving into her eventual big W for the year, which was her album. And this is what really elevated her status and kind of solidified her album, Sugar Honey Iced Tea, which was a very good listen in my opinion. And for some reason going into this album, I didn't really have that high of expectations. I didn't really expect to like the project, even though I liked her project from a couple of years ago, 777, so I don't really know why I didn't have any expectations for this album. But for her to come into this album and drop a good and complete album in this modern era shows a lot. That means that she is a very good artist and a very good rapper, because not a lot of her counterparts, male or female, because that's not what I'm restricting this to, but male or female, not a lot of her counterparts that have come up recently over the last couple of years are really good at making complete projects. Because a lot of artists in this modern era, or rappers I should say, aren't really like album rappers or album artists. And what I mean by this is that they do most of their damage and have most of their success when they're dropping singles. They're doing singles, they'll drop single, and it'll build up a whole bunch of momentum, and they're doing great. Look at somebody like Boss Man D-Lo, or maybe somebody like Ice Spice for an example of this. They do really, really good on singles, but when it's time to drop that album, it's a little iffy. They probably don't even really want to, and the albums come out like just, you know, decent enough. They probably just have to put an album out because it's part of the contract. But Latto, on this project, Sugar Honey Iced Tea, puts out a full, complete, very, very good album, in my opinion. And what she shows throughout this project isn't necessarily anything elite in one category. I don't really think she does any one thing super, super elite, but I think she does pretty much everything really well. And I think that she's kind of comparable to Drake in that sense, where she kind of just does everything well. Nothing is really a standout trait for her, at least at the moment. And I think that that's something that she could use to her, you know, advantage going into the future. Maybe that is her elite trait, is her kind of like adaptability. I think that she could go the Drake route in terms of making a whole bunch of different sounds of music, or tapping into a bunch of different sounds, being features on, you know, other songs and stuff like that. But I'm not going to get into that too far right now. But just saying that she does a lot of really different things well in this song. And she makes a lot of banger music, of course, like the second half of a song like Big Mama, or Blixum, or a song like Brokey, which was really my favorite song at the beginning when I first listened to this project, and honestly might still be my favorite song. It's one of the better songs in the album. And a song like There She Go as well, which is another kind of banger song. And also, let me just throw this in there before I move past this part of the video. I just want to say, I hate you, Playboi Carti, for removing your verse off of Blixum, because that song was gonna be my favorite. It's still a good song, but it was gonna be my favorite. The combo of him and Latto on that song is never a combo that I put together in my mind before I heard that leaked song. But once I heard it, I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then, of course, he goes out and doesn't clear the feature. So, you know, whatever, Cardi. Like, just go sit in your cave in Atlanta somewhere. Do they have caves in Atlanta? Whatever, I'm getting distracted. But yeah, she puts out a lot of really good banger/club music on this project. In terms of her bars, I've always thought that she was just a bit overrated, because a lot of people would really gas her bars and her ability lyrically, and I still think that she is slightly overrated in that space, but I think that she has gotten better and improved in that area, so I do have to give her kudos for that. But again, she gives a whole bunch of different sounds on this project. I know I talked about the banger-esque songs on this album, but she also has some love songs mixed in there, and also some really like self-reflecting type of music in there with songs like Prized Possession and Shout Out to Me and stuff like that. But I will say this, again, I think that her area of eliteness, or the one trait that she can have that is elite, is probably just her adaptability. And I think that that is a road that she can go down. I think she can be really successful just being a feature on a bunch of different types of music. We've already seen her do a feature on like a K-pop song that went like #1 or something like that. So I think that that could be a lane that she really taps into. And I would love to hear her on one of these like more modern-esque country songs. I think that she could do really, really great in that side of things as well if she gets on, because she is kind of, you know, she's country, right? A little bit, somewhat. I don't know. I'm making that up. I don't know if I'm making that up. I don't know. She's from the South, right? That's close enough. Close enough. So I think she could kind of adapt to getting into some of those country songs and being a feature here and there on like a guy like Shabuzi. If he, I don't know if he's dropping another project, or is that even the dude's name, or is that the name of the song? I don't know. The dude that made the Shabuzi, the black country guy, if he's dropping an album sooner or later, she should try to get on that project, because I think she could fit in to that space well. I think she could be somebody that really plays a good part and fitting into a bunch of different spaces and getting other people to come back to her music. Now, getting people who might not have ever known about her or ever bumped into her music to bump into her music via being somewhere that she's probably not supposed to be, and bringing them back to her own music. And also, she does a really good job at like mixing in old samples of music and not just making it feel like a cheap copy. One of her bigger songs, Big D Energy, is a song that's like that. She basically takes an old song and turns it into a new song, but it doesn't necessarily feel cheap. Obviously, you can hear the old song and it partially blows up because of the old song, but it doesn't feel cheap. A song like There She Go on this project is another song that fits that mold, because we've gotten a lot of issues with that recently, with people sampling and remixing old songs, but just putting out the old song with them just saying the lyrics now and not really adding anything different to it. You can look at a song like Jack Harlow's First Class, where he kind of just lets Fergie carry the song and he just kind of jumps in a little bit. She doesn't really do that necessarily, at least not as egregiously as other people do it, so I will give her credit for that as well. And also, like I said, I was going to circle back into the whole Drake thing, because on this album, this really does have a lot of Drake influence. If I have really one big nitpick for this album, it's like, man, this feels a lot like Drake. And that's why I keep bringing his name up throughout this video. This sounds like if Drake was a woman from Clayco on some parts of this album. I'm gonna be honest. Like Prized Possession and Shout Out to Me, I really like those songs, but I really like those songs because they kind of sound like Drake songs. Like in terms of the flow and the bars and the song structure, they really, really do have a heavy Drake influence. Those two songs specifically. And that's probably because she's been in like close proximity to Drake. We saw the feature that she has on a Drake song that came out right before her album did, I believe. But I believe she's, rumored to be dating 21 Savage, and 21 Savage and Drake are really good friends. So I'm sure that she's been around Drake to get some influence from him. And she probably grew up listening to a lot of Drake as well, just like pretty much everyone else has that is of her age and younger. And also her sister is allegedly dating Drake. And I hope that's not true, because her sister's, I think she's younger than me. And another, I guess, con of this album is that it only sold 29K first week, which isn't very much, but it did outsell Ice Spice's album by 1K first week, which is pretty funny just because they've been beefing to only outsell her by 1K. It's like barely beat her. But Ice Spice was considered the much hotter artist going into both of their albums and the bigger artist, so she probably should have sold more than her. So that's kind of a W in a roundabout way, but not really a super huge successful commercial album for Latto when it comes to Sugar Honey Iced Tea. But that doesn't really matter for what I'm talking about in this video. I'm just talking about who she is as an artist and how good she is as an artist. And I think a lot of people have started to miss out on that conversation when it comes to talking about albums. And I've played into that as well, talking about the numbers. But in terms of this album and how it sounds, I think it's a success. And I don't think that you can really say, well, of course you can say it's not. It's, all an opinion. It's all subjective. But I think that for the most part, the opinion of people who have actually given the album a chance and listened to it would say that it is a success. And I think that when you're comparing her to her peers, that album is comparable to anybody's last album. It's comparable to Nicki Minaj's Pink Friday 2. It's comparable to Doja Cat's Scarlet. I'm not going to say it's, without a shadow of a doubt better than either of those albums, but it's comparable. You can't sit up here and say that like, oh no, they're just leagues and miles apart. No, I think that they're around the same range of album. And in terms of albums that have come out this year in rap, I think it's comparable to most. There may be a few in there, a few and far in between that are, considerably better than that album. But in terms of most other people's albums this year's, I think it's highly comparable. So I think that she did a great job on this project. I think that she has established herself as a good rapper and somebody to be respected. I think she's better than the Sexy Reds of the world, and she shouldn't even be compared to Ice Spice anymore. I'm sorry. After listening to both of their albums, she shouldn't be compared to her. And I think she's better than even somebody like a Glorilla, and we can have conversations about Meg at this point, because I really, especially when we're talking about Glorilla, I really do value the ability to make a good album, and I think that she's just much better at putting together projects at this point than somebody like Glorilla. Now, Meg, I can kind of toss a coin up at this point. Sometimes I'm not really feeling Meg's projects all the way like I am Latto's, but Meg does drop a lot more consistently than Latto, so you do have to be, taking into consideration that she's dropping more music. But we can have that conversation. But in terms of establishing herself as an artist this year, I really, really, truly do believe that Latto has done a very good job at that and really risen, but that wasn't the right word. She's really raised her stock in my eyes and in the eyes of a lot of fans. I think that her respect level has to be there. If you are a rap fan and you actually do give women a chance, you don't just say, oh, you have to respect her as an artist, male or female, anything in between, whatever you want to say. As an artist in general, as a rapper, in comparison to men and women, you have to respect Latto at this point, at least in my opinion. But if you made it this far, I greatly, greatly appreciate you. And make sure you leave a comment. Tell me whatever you want to say in the comments. I think that Latto has really established herself this year. But hey, that's just me.